Well, hello, and welcome to everyone. I'm really glad to be joining you today, and thank you for tuning in. I would love to know, though, where are you joining us from today? You should be able to see a question box on your screen right now. So just type it in. Where are you joining us from? It'd be amazing to see sort of what global audience we've got today. So I'm very excited. This, of course, is the session where we will be looking in detail at 2021 and why it's the year to unify experiences. And importantly, how technology will be powering retail's comeback. This is a really excellent session we've got lined up. I'm Oliver Banks. I'm here with Sunil Bajaj. We'll be introducing ourselves in just a little moment. But right now, we all know the stories of 2020. Shut shops don't trade well, but there are opportunities, and there certainly have been winners. E-commerce has grown beyond expectation, but it's not the be-all and end-all. There are further avenues to go down. The grocers have been really pretty busy and have grown really well online, but hospitality, not so much. But again, through things like click and collect, there have been opportunities. Let's look a little deeper. As we look at consumers, we know they've had to deal with a whole series of frustrations, from toilet paper availability through to the shock of staying at home and getting familiar with Zoom and webinars and all that sort of stuff. And of course, ultimately, forming a whole load of new habits. We've seen retailers see huge growth in some areas. I touched on grocery just a moment ago. The grocers have essentially doubled their online business within a matter of weeks, which is just phenomenal growth, particularly when you look at the whole size of it. We've had online native digital pure play retailers like Boohoo and Moonpig do very, very well. And of course, there have been success stories from the so-called non-essential retailers as well. I'm thinking of the likes of Dixon's Carphone, who introduced quick contactless curbside deliveries to really fantastic customer feedback, to be honest. But of course, there have been those that have fared less well, unfortunately. We've got companies like Primark who have rigidly stuck to their dedication to physical stores, I should say, and not moving online. But of course, they've been, lucky in as much as they've been trading very well for the past few years. Debenhams and Arcadia, of course, we know the story there. And, unfortunately, I fear that there could be more to come in that way. And of course, we've seen many independent retailers either go to the wall or step up and make something happen. It's been a really interesting and, well, quite an exciting time in a slightly weird way. But one thing for me stands true above everything else. The gap between the winners and the losers in retail has really widened, but there is absolutely something that you can do about it. Now, keen to know, just use that Q&A box just to share your thoughts. What have been your key reflections from 2020? I'd love to read some out in just a moment. But Sunil, just before we do introduce ourselves, what have been your reflections from the last year?
Yeah, thank you, Oliver. See, you have touched upon some of the right topics. In fact, the latest story of Boohoo and Debenham, where there are articles about how the high street is at risk. So definitely there have been struggles in 2020. The struggles for some of non-essential brands for the traffic in their stores, and some of the essential brands where they had to struggle with their supply and keeping their operations up with the high demands in certain categories, like what you were mentioning. There are, to me, there are in 2020 there are two irreversible outcomes which are going to continue. One, the changing customer demand and customer expectations, the heightened customer expectation and changing customer expectations. Our lifestyle has changed. We are now virtual workforce. which so the debate is still on whether it will continue to be like this, at least in part, if not completely. And then virtual education, the whole debate about why some of those colleges have been charging the high fee and all that, but eventually the education is also moving towards online. And there are every single industry has some or the other impact which can even be long term. And in that case, how the shopping behaviors have changed, some of the categories have been redefined, and the customer expectations with the digital shopping that have come now, which probably has changed for good, right? And related point is the digital retail growth in general. The balance has shifted from, or it's increasingly shifting from physical retail to digital retail. Last many years, we have seen about 1% shift every year from physical to digital. But last 1 year, we have seen about 15 to 16% move from physical retail to digital retail, which some of it probably will come back to stores. But definitely, it is a long term change and really an acceleration into the trends that we were looking for. Uh, some analysts have told that by 2033, pre-COVID, I'm talking about, by 2033, the digital retail will actually surpass physical brick and mortar retail. That estimate now can be as early as 2025 or 2026. Next few years, we might even see that. So that's the biggest story in 2020 when it comes to retail. For me, that's the biggest story. And every retailer today, every brand today need to prepare themselves for this upcoming environment.
Definitely, and I think that's very true. What you've been saying there. I think for me, the fact that the retail market, again, it's different in different territories, but has shown resilience, has continued to actually increase sales in many categories, is a great sign of opportunity and hope for me. It's not like, as you read all the media, it's not that bad. But let's just think about some of the items that I see coming in from the audience as well. Thinking about changed more, customer expectations. You mentioned that one, definitely an acceleration as well. I think that's a brilliant point there about everything has accelerated and come from.
Yes.
So do keep those thoughts coming in. I see we've got quite an international audience today. We've got UK, we've got America, Madrid, and Spain.
Wonderful.
So
welcome everyone.
Yes, fantastic. So do continue to share your thoughts. We'll be hosting a live Q&A right at the end of this. So do throw in your questions as we're going. We can come to them as we go through or later on, depending on what they are. Just before we do get into the meat of all of this, I thought it might be useful just to do a quick little bit of introductions. So who are we? So I'm Oliver Banks. I help retailers to transform their operations and operating models. I'm a consultant and I am here in the UK. And I also host a podcast called the Retail Transformation Show.
Hi, I am Sunil Bajaj. I'm head of retail consulting and solutions for Aspire Systems. I've been retail technology consultant for over 20 years now, and I'm based in Dallas, Texas, in US. A brief introduction about Aspire Systems. We are a global technology company working on digital products and solutions for over 20 years now, since the word digital has come. We have our offices globally in US, Mexico, London, Poland, Singapore, Dubai, and two major development centers in India as well. In our retail practice, we provide technology solutions for digital and in-store experiences, loyalty solutions, merchandising, retail planning, and supply chain solutions. We continuously strive and invest into technology offerings that can help our customers build better efficiencies in their businesses and better experiences now.
Super. So, like I said, we continue to use that Q&A box for questions. We will dive into all of them later on. But let's just think about this right now. So across the world, we've, of course, through different languages and so on, we've got the essential, non-essential categorization, which isn't the most flattering to some retailers. But, as you look at, I suppose, the wider retail market, but in many different categories as well, omnichannel has, of course, been a major trend for a number of years now. But it's only really recently that we've seen the channels start to merge together and really properly work together. Companies like Amazon, of course, have been raising the bar when it comes to competitiveness, when it comes to speed, consistency, and so on. So it's really critical to assess, how are you going to get fit for this comeback that we're going to do in 2021? Many retailers now have got to overcome the sea of sameness, if you like. Ranges are increasingly commoditized. It's so easy, to pick up your phone, a few finger presses, and you will have many, many different choices of retailers, all with very similar, obviously, product ranges, but also delivery competition. So how are you going to stand apart? How are you going to stand aside? And really, for me, it's the experiences and the touch points that offer opportunities for differentiation. What are your thoughts on the state of omnichannel today?
Right, and you're right, Oliver. First, before we look at too far ahead in the future, let's talk a little bit about omnichannel, which has been the talk of the industry for last decade or so, I would say. The omnichannel experiences today are defined in terms of certain use cases. Predominantly, we call it like click and collect, ship from store, buy online, return in store, endless aisles, which is basically clienteling and mobile point of sale based selling by some of the retailers they have implemented. These are all highly valuable use cases which have enabled retailers across the globe to implement digital channels, e-commerce channels, mobile apps. They have enabled retailers today to work on order management and order orchestration processes and solutions. It has set up the foundation for supply chain for stores and direct to consumers. So if you want to create a separate warehouse, a warehouse zone, or direct deliveries and so on. So I believe omnichannel has given its returns and created a good foundation for the next decade or next few years to come. But as we are talking about now, the industry is switching towards more digital than physical. Still, that the value of stores is still a question. And I think the problem with omnichannel is that we are still channel centric. The whole view is channel centric, thinking is channel centric. Look at the metrics that Wall Street looks at the performance for retail brands today, even today. It's comp store sales, same store sales, or digital retail growth, which if you realize it is still a channel based approach to look at the performance of some of the brands. But we know how digital retail today, with the current customer journeys, digital retail can affect store sales, and store sales can affect online sales, right? So they are all becoming a single journey now. So how many brands today are able to measure those impacts? Can I measure a sales associate who is able to make a positive impact in a store and a customer comes back and orders online? Are we really measuring those kind of impacts? Internal systems and incentives are still designed by channel. Most retailers still have separate layers for their stores teams and digital teams, sometimes meeting at a much higher CXO levels as well. So I think that's something that we need to look at it about omnichannel, while it is a great foundation. When you look at customers, on the other hand, customers don't care about the channel. Customers now want you to be available everywhere they are, whenever they like. They can order from their kitchen table. They can order from, at midnight, and they want you to be present. They want the convenience. They want the convenience of information, convenience of delivery, convenience of feedback. They want you to, they want to tweet, and then they want your brand to tweet back within an hour, and they want a community around every brand where they can talk about it. So customers' expectations have gone way ahead, and customer want that seamless integration between what you tell on your Instagram and what you experience in store, and what you experience on your e-commerce or on your apps. So I think they are even, moving back and forth between these touch points, and they want you to retain that context, retain that information that they are providing, so that they can continue their journey where they left, whenever they are touching from one point to another point. And that's where I want to, bring this term, which is the term for our webinar, unified experiences. And this experience that we are talking about, where we can go around every single touch point and keeping a journey flowing with the context remaining. And that's the experience we call it, unified experiences, and the experiences that are so seamlessly integrated, be it any touch point everywhere, even at the post-purchase feedbacks and community as well. So I think that's the answer for the future, if you will.
I think it's true. We increasingly enjoy our lives. We increasingly want to communicate and shop digitally as well. So let's just build this out. Let's put some examples in and around this sort of unified experience or unified commerce.
Yes, definitely. So let's talk about two or three examples that I'll talk about. Nike flagship store in New York. It's a good example. If you like something, one of the use cases over there I've seen, if you like something on a mannequin, you have a QR code right next to it. You scan the QR code, and then you can see on your mobile where you can find more about the product, about more colors, more options, more sizes available, and so on. Then you go to a virtual try-on fitting room, where you can try the different sizes, colors, whatnot. You can even have experience of changing the lighting and mood on that virtual fitting room, and you can make you look yourself perfect. And then you are making your order online on your same, on your own device, and products get delivered to your home. Now think about this journey. In fact, if I may ask a question to everyone, um, what is the role of store here? Is this customer journey, do you account for this sale as a store sale, or are you going to account this sale as a digital sale? What is the role of a store in this use case? It is an experience center. It is not the place where you are keeping inventory, right? Another use case, which probably is getting more popular now, is reserve online pickup in store. Some of the brands like Sephora has done well. Nike itself has done well. You've selected the product online, but then you go to store to pick up. So basically, your discovery of the product in the customer journey is divided into two, where you did the initial discovery, you selected and down selected, and then you are going to the store and try on different sizes and colors and whatnot. And then in the store, it is already kept for you. Whatever you have requested for, you go and try it out, and you can even make payment in the store, or you can make the payment against the order that you have created online. So again, the same question, right? Where do you account for such sales? You cannot look at these from a channel perspective. You have to look at it in its entirety. Some other good examples are video-based personalized shopping, which I believe is getting quite popular in China, I hear. And then Apple has started during pandemic when the stores were closed. Apple was doing the demos and showcasing the new products on their video shopping platform. So think about these are new, and there's no limit to call what I call as a unified experiences, but these are these are some of the examples. And then a brand today can be as creative as they want to provide some of these kind of experiences.
It's really interesting. It's amazing opportunities and examples out there already, and lots more in people's heads, I'm sure. And it's actually quite interesting in terms of if you think about some of these examples around sort of perhaps live streaming or sort of video consultations. There are a number of different elements that go into making something like that happen. It's not just about providing the technology. There's got to be the people aspects around training people to learn how to do live streaming or to have confidence in the camera and all of these different elements as well. It's not just a simple solution. Amazing going on for sure. Let's just think, how should someone start to build out these different experiences? Where do you start?
Yeah, I think as I was talking earlier, this is essentially it will be very difficult to build these experiences if we continue to have these our business processes or technology solutions divided by channels. I think that's the first part to think about. We have to start looking at marketing, digital commerce, and in-store functions as single unified function, keeping customer at the center. It means that the information is not segregated across different touch points. It is exact same information for each customer touch point that they can access, and every touch point can plan their bit and how they can influence the customer. And it can also mean the strong decoupling of your front end of the experiences and your back end of how you're managing your data and operations as well. So these are the broad topics. We will discuss more about it when we talk about our unified commerce framework.
For sure. I mean, we'll get to the framework in just a minute, and I'm sure people will have lots of questions. Do as a quick reminder, use that question box. I see them flooding in, so we will get to them all at the end. But in this sort of unified experience world that we're increasingly moving towards, what role does technology play? It's obviously it's a fairly major role for many of them, but what do you thought?
That's today they say that every company is a technology company, right? So, but for brands and retailers, I think we are retail. I would still call it we are becoming more of a media company first before we call ourselves a technology company. We need to our brands and retailers need to generate killer content, multi-sensory experience in the store, the music, the smell that you have, and so think of store as a stage, and of course the online experiences that we need to kind of change completely in the times to come. So those are the kind of things that we will have to think first as a media company, and then technology plays a great enabler, an essential enabler, and a great platform where the brand can tell their stories. When it comes to technology strategy, we think there can be a framework and an approach that need to continuously build and continuously improve on when we look at some of these things, right? In fact, some of the technology examples that are coming in now, 5G is already here. When we look at 5G, the reliability and the bandwidth that it will provide to the network is going to be phenomenally different and better, right? It gives you a great opportunity for improving the user experiences across the board. Then you have, let's say, 3D printing coming in. Now, how do you say 3D printing can help you personalize your products so much as it gets kind of cheaper and cheaper? So technologies are providing a great enablement, but I would hesitate to call retail as a technology industry.
Yeah, I'm in big agreement. I do appreciate your thoughts there. I actually really familiarised with that sort of concept of having your store as a stage, and almost the technology provides some special effects. But of course, there are many other aspects to putting on a performance as well, which it offers lots of different avenues to go down. Just start diving into some of the details. How do you go about pursuing a unified commerce or a unified experience strategy?
Yes, I think we will jump into our framework that I'm going to talk about at a quite a high level right now. Where what is our unified commerce framework? It's a framework. It, we have put together a combination of execution strategies and best practices to create unified experiences, and not just create, but how do you improve on and go through that journey of unified experiences. And first part of that is enabling activities for the organization towards the unified commerce. I will take what you see on the screen. I will take some of them. I think I'm waiting for the screen to show up, but I'll probably get started. In the enablement, the first thing I touched upon earlier, unified teams. Many brands have their digital and store ops teams separate. IT side as well as business side, they they are today treated as two different teams, and as I said, meeting somewhere higher up at a CXO level only. um, but in 2021 it would be prudent to merge these functions at least at a mid management level and create unified teams, and more and more collaboration and a single team approaches that need to happen for enabling the brands. The second point is consistency. Consistency of engineering practices. Here, I mean consistency as in consistency of engineering practices. Most of the enterprises today have invested into some kind of DevOps, CI/CD, or agile practices, but the maturity levels are different by each channel, each team, how you adopt, and things like that. A feature, I'll give you a small example. A feature might not be rolled out on an e-com and your mobile channel at the same time. That eventually hampers your unified commerce goals. So while the investment in some of those engineering practices is essential, we also need to make sure that it is consistent. Right, our approach need to be more customer centric, not so much on the channel centric. We touched upon that earlier as well. But we need to kind of make scenarios where the customer journey will flow between marketing, stores, and digital touchpoints. We can take a simple example that you want to treat your customer differently on her birthday. Now, you can plan for an extra 10% discount that she can apply on any channel. You plan to send that personalized emails. At the same time, can you also empower your associate to create a personalized experience for her should she walks into the store? So while we do good job in today sending those marketing emails, we may be doing good job in getting the coupon code and that they can apply. But can we do an extra bit to see how the role of my associate can change in this small experience by making it more personalized? And for that, the store associate has to be empowered with the right information at the right time, which means the associate need to know today is her birthday and at what point he or she need to know. We'll touch upon that in a bit as well. The next point here is fail fast and learn fast. This has been software engineering concept for some time, adopted mainly by product companies and who are building products. I think a similar approach can be applied for enterprises. This is about rolling out beta features, giving incentives to customers to test, and so on. we need to be bold about how we are creating these experiences and making experiments. We need to build COEs and partnerships that can explore new technologies and experiences. For example, I touched upon this 3D printing earlier. Now, a shoe brand can experiment to create a 3D printed shoes for each customer that they can design by themselves. Now, you might want to create a partnership with a 3D company who's providing a 3D printers, and and maybe do a small investment over there, and keep yourself ready when the technology is ready to launch. So those kind of experiments and POCs are also important. So these are some of the best practices that you can adopt when you are enabling your organization for the future.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. To the next part of the
Right, right. The next part I want to touch upon is a single view of data. See, this is a building block for unified experiences. Most of the retailers today have this single view of data to some extent, broadly around these 5 categories: your product information, customer information, sales information, inventory information, right, and of course the order information. These we will discuss on what improvements that we need to make on this single view of data that you have. Let's take an example that you may have a CRM solution today that works like a single view of customer. Most CRM applications are not really flexible enough to add and sustain every single customer interaction. They are mostly built with master data management view. Can we sustain non-transactions like customer visits to stores, lost sales opportunities, social media interactions, and so on? There can be so many different ways the customer will interact with the brand. How do I collect and sustain that data? And that's an area that we need to start thinking about if we want to really build futuristic unified commerce or unified experiences. Now, this data can be your structured data or unstructured data, like say free flowing text or pictures, or this data even we can even consider, let's say, streaming data, like logs of user or usage data in case of smart products and smart brands you may have, especially when it comes to electronics. So
true.
we need to start looking at all of that data. I mean, of course, this will require a good amount of technology investments. I would not say, uh, one large program where you have to make a big investment, but start somewhere. Start to create those data lakes, start to build some of these big data concepts where you can start collecting all of that non-transaction data, which your normal solution like an order management solution or a CRM solution may not be capable of capturing. And then you build upon that, and that becomes a good foundation for unified commerce for the future.
Yeah, I think it's really good. Yeah, there's so much in there, and data is obviously increasingly an important part of retail. Obviously, e-commerce has had data for a long time, but now actually, as stores are becoming increasingly digitally enabled, there's this whole new data stream that is coming in, and it's very rich in terms of what it can tell you, and also can be quite confusing as well if you don't have a plan as to how you're going to deal with that.
Yeah.
What's the next item in the framework, Sunil?
Yeah, so I think we need to now the next part we just talked about the data that we are talking about, right? Now the next part, of course, is how do I access that data, right? It is about accessing the information, accessing the context from each of the customer touch point to deliver the desired experiences. In the previous section, what we were storing was not the data. What we were storing was the context. because you're storing the non-transactional data, right? So if you are storing a context of somebody went to your e-commerce channel, they put some certain products on wish list that can be accessible to store associates to serve that customer better when she walks into the store. That's what you have stored the context of the web and brought it to the store. Or a personalized upsell recommendation that can be provided to an associate that he or she can use when the customer walks in next time. For this to happen, it requires that we access right information at the right time at every customer touch point. Not only information is accessed, but also enriched with the new customer interaction. And this is where when I was talking about data lake solutions that we need to start investing in, we created in previous step, right? Uh, we need to now look at it data as a service. So enterprise integration architecture, technically speaking, becomes a highly important function. For the services that need scalability and higher number of changes, even microservices can also be considered. This need to be platform agnostic. Any channel or touch point should be able to access those services. And eventually you move towards, when we'll talk in a little bit, is more of a headless commerce kind of experiences, which you will start delivering it. So while these are, I know that these are all look like large programs and bigger initiatives, but they are essentially not. Just going back and taking our example of birthday, when I'm just want to give a small experience of uh, making somebody's day special, my customer's day special on a birthday. I just need to store the right information. And in this example, can I give this information to my store associate when the customer walks in, rather than when the customer has already done the selection, they have reached to the registration, they have provided you the phone number, and then, oh, okay, it's your birthday. Happy birthday, ma'am. That's rather than that. Can I move it a little bit earlier and know about that customer as she's walking in, and then I can do that sooner. So I think those are the kind of things that can be achieved for the smallest of the experiences when we start thinking like this. And that's where I would talk about my next point, or the next stage.
I just wanted to reflect on that, because I think certainly as we were talking and planning this session out, right, you described it to me as the data is almost like the plumbing, right? So you have the plumbing that sits behind all of your different experiences and operating model. Actually, you've got to make sure that the water is flowing to the right place at the right time, and it's having all of those different access points, but also knowing that you can access the right data at the right time. It's not just some data, it's got to be the right data at the right time. And it's such a great analogy that actually you need to be thinking about your data going through a plumbing system and how you can make sure that you've got the pipes going to the right places, so to speak.
Absolutely, that's a great way to think. Yes, absolutely, and that's what we mean here, right? That we data and information is going to drive your experiences. It's not just the front end of the jazzy technologies and the mobile phones and mobile iPads and so on, right? It's about what you put behind them.
Exactly. You don't want a series of dumb devices, shall we say. Super. Let's move on to the next stage then.
Yes, Oliver. So the next stage is where the rubber hits the road, right? So you're delivering those experiences, and this is where first point I want to in fact talk about is that experience does not depend on technology alone. A musical piece in a store, a certain smell in a store, a socially relevant viral post on a social media by a brand are not necessarily technology driven experiences. Having said that, today we'll keep our focus on how technology can assist and enable some of these unified experiences. I believe with the previous discussions about this data and accessibility that we were just having, it makes it very easy now. If your earlier steps are done well, it becomes very easy now to deliver on your front end of your experiences. We can move customer journeys forward from every interaction. Like their social and digital exchanges can influence and personalize product recommendations in digital and stores, and so on. That you will get the information and then you can just deliver that information. Um, and this earlier example also that I have taken, the wish list to improve sales conversion by associate, is also an example. I think here we are now talking about this new concept, headless commerce. This concept used to be there in content management for last many years, and now in the commerce also we are talking about headless commerce. And this has made it possible to completely decouple your front end interactions with your back end services that we are talking about, data as a service and all the information, right? So we will even be able to enable things like voice shopping. Now your Google Home can do, and you can talk to your Google Home and do the shopping. You don't even need an e-commerce site. An IoT-based shopping using headless commerce concepts. Think about your refrigerator ordering the replenishments from your fridge, not too far away. So so that's where I think we go back in our enable quadrant when we were looking at our COEs and partnerships to deliver those cutting edge experiences, be it a AR technology where you want to fit a furniture piece in a customer's home, or earlier the analogy where I said you want to do your own 3D printed shoe. So uh, it's all about these are the technologies which are which are enabling you to deliver these experiences with the help of the data and the services that we earlier talked about. And let's not forget, I think somebody has asked this great question as well. What about the future of employees? Your Let's not forget about the experience of your front end employees, especially the store associates and your customer service agents. Tomorrow's store associates are not going to be cashiers or stockers. They will be your consultants or storytellers for your brand, and they will influence the customer in their decision making. They'll help the customers in their decision making. And so think from that perspective. When your stores are the stage or the experience centers, your employees are not necessarily the clerks. They are your media agents. They are the ones who are influencers to those customers, and they are telling stories about the brand. So it is also essential when we talk about these technologies who are improving the experiences. They need to improve experiences for these associates as well, team members as well, with better tools and better technologies. And earlier we talked about with the better data in hand, so that they can deliver those experiences.
So very true. We've got one final piece of the puzzle, haven't we?
Yes, and that's equally important, if not more. We'll talk about learning, right? How do we learn from all of this? I think when I say learning, it's not about the technology learning alone. With everything, I'm trying to touch upon both business aspects and the technology aspects to it. How do I today, what are the KPIs and what are the measures? When we talk about stores as your experience centers, can I still keep the old KPIs of same store sales, store sales that have been made in the store? I touched upon these topics earlier, but now we need to probably time for redefining the role of an associate, redefining the role of a store, redefining the KPIs on which you are going to measure the store performance, as well as your online performance, because they both kind of feed each other. Each touch point is impacting and feeding each other, right? So it's not just about where customer has placed the order or where the customer has paid for the order. Most journeys could be transient. So it is important that we look at the right KPIs to measure, not just overall as a company that I touched upon, but every experience that we are building. We need to make sure that we are creating the right metrics to measure those experiences so that we can learn from it and we can improve from it. And so these things, our measurements could also be kind of, think about in our examples, if store is a media, how do you measure a media? You measure a media by number of impressions that you have created on customers, right? That's how the media ads are measured on. So what if we start measuring some of those things as well? Stores are great places where you can invest into beacons or more IoT infrastructure. And in that case, you can even have those clickstream views. You can learn more and more about what is the browsing patterns for the customers when they are coming on in your stores. I mean, I'm talking about a little bit larger stores in this case, but if you are a big box retailer and if your store sizes are good enough to justify it, we have been doing this clickstream analysis on e-com for a long time now. But what about stores, right? So these are the kind of things that we can start looking at and learning from. More and more we learn from this data, and better we can experience and tweak our experiences and keep learning from it. A/B testing is another great way to roll out. It has been there for some time, but we need to make sure that we are doing a completeness across all touch points when we say unified experiences. And it makes it a tad more complex to do this A/B testing when you are rolling out your experience to certain group of geography, certain group of customers, certain segment of customers, and you want to test on them and see the result of that experience, learn from it, and then you move on from there, right? So I think these are the kind of things that we need to learn on. And learning is not just about when I mostly touched upon the experience learning. It's learning from the experiences that we are building. Learning also about the technology. Am I improving my release cycles? Am I in fact some of the larger product shops today can even do a daily releases. Now you may not need that. You may do a weekly releases or bi-weekly releases. Are you being consistent? Measure yourself on the consistency of your rollouts and releases across different touch points so that you are always completing it. So learnings come all over, whether it is technology or on the KPIs and business that you are on. And that's very, very important. And that's how kind of, I would say, we complete the cycle and we can continuously create, build, and learn.
That's so good. And I think it's actually really important as you think about those 5 different elements of the framework. One can seem enormous and the whole lot very, very big, particularly if you haven't, I suppose, made a proper start yet. I think it's really important for people to be considering how can you take each one and just level it up a little bit to build that maturity slowly over time. It's not going to be a big one-hit wonder where suddenly you have complete single view of all of your data across customer, product, order, etc. But let's build it up. Let's make the connections. Let's develop our maturity over time.
So right, you're so right, Oliver. These are sometimes when we look at it, it can become overwhelming, but not really like that. In fact, most of the retail brands have already made a lot of investments into some of these. Either it is technology or businesses or the business processes and things like that. It's only about how we give a perspective when we start thinking as a unified channels and unified experiences. And I think
we've got questions coming in, so I'm keen to get into that Q&A. What should someone be doing next, Sunil?
Yes. Okay. So I think we should talk about a great tool, a small tool that we have created for assessment. I think the very first thing that we need to do, we need to reflect, right? We need to look ourselves whether where we stand. And you can be at a much early stage, or you can be quite mature already, and it's all perfectly fine. But know where you are when you look at yourself in the mirror. And this is a small tool for a 10 minutes or 15 minutes of your time. You take your time and assess yourself, and we have invested into creating this assessment for Unified Commerce. And please go ahead and take this assessment. What we'll do is we'll take this information, and we'll try to create a customized, personalized report for you based on this framework and the details underneath that I have not talked about today. We don't have enough time to get into more details, but we will look at all of that, the information that you provide, and we will provide you a personalized report within a few days.
So, I mean, that's an awesome opportunity. If you're looking at getting started and saying, let's do something, let's, really seriously do something in 2021 about moving to a place where we offer unified experiences, then taking this self-assessment, like I said, it's a nice, easy step. It takes 10 minutes to fill out. You can use the QR code on the screen, or you can type it in. You'll also get that link sent out afterwards as well. But then the team at Eskimo Systems will be creating a personalized recommendation report for you, so you actually know exactly which elements are going to be your number one target areas based on your own personal situation. It's obviously, doing these webinars is brilliant, but sometimes we need to get into the details of your own specific use case before we can go into into exactly what each an individual company needs to be doing. So do go ahead, grab that QR code, or take a record of the website there, and do go ahead and fill in that unified commerce, unified experience assessment, and you'll get that PDF report. So now this has been a really great session. I know we're keen to move on to the Q&A. So if you do have questions, then feel free to use the question box. We are absolutely 100% live. And if you're watching on the replay, I should say, then do continue to reach out. We can use hashtag #AskAspire on LinkedIn, or obviously via email. You can reach both of us on LinkedIn as well. So the first question that we've got, let me just bring these up, is I agree with retail in 2020. Do you see consolidation happening in the retail industry in the next couple of years? What are your thoughts on that, Sunil? I know I have some thoughts, sure.
Yeah, I mean, consolidation, if I have to say, more than the consolidation, I think it is about the brands without purpose. And they are not sure, brands which are not sure about their purpose when in the market. Probably we are already seeing them, right, in the last couple of years, and 2020 has not been very good for many brands. They will probably disappear, right? And that's where I think the good and bad part is, right. Some of those probably will get weeded out, but and then in that process there may be some consolidation, and some of the great properties may still get bought over, possibly. But I think it is more about this churn, where we will probably see brands with more purpose, with more, because you do understand there are these ecosystems of Amazon and Alibaba or ASOS, which are large ecosystems, and they are expanding like anything. And any brand now will have to see there where you are with respect to these big large ecosystems. Are you, and they are becoming our cognitive default, right? I mean, it is becoming like I will I think about a product and I just open Amazon and start searching. And so it's becoming a kind of default search engine for any product. And in that, how are you competing against? Where do you stand in that? And that's what is important for any brand to figure out. And not, I mean, every definitely there are still a lot of categories left, and the likes of Amazon's will still uh, kind of find struggle in certain categories. But still, I think it is important for every brand to think about their purpose.
I totally agree with that. For me, consolidation, I think, will absolutely happen. We've seen it this week already with Boohoo and Debenhams. And I think there could be potentially something with ASOS and or some of the Arcadia brands, perhaps. But I think there's also an element of, actually, we'll continue to see more and more new players come into it. If you think of some of the big growth companies like Shark, for example, that seem to come from nowhere really very quickly. So I think we'll continue to see that.
Yes.
And of course, as you look from a customer perspective, we're actually seeing much wider scope of retail. Shopping through Pinterest or Instagram and different social channels and live streaming, and it's just exploding out. And it's important to be able to come and meet the customer where they are.
Yes.
Moving on. Question: how difficult would it be to focus on specific market groups in the omnichannel approach? Well, I think for this one, it really does come down to understanding your customer and your market ultimately. I think there are many different options, and you touched on it just a moment ago. So, know what's the purpose that you're serving? I think that it can sound a bit fluffy if you're thinking about purpose as save the whales and so on. I think actually it's more about, how do you serve your customer? That's the purpose. What is it you're helping them to do or to overcome?
Yes.
And actually then that blends through into your omni-channel approach or your unified experience approach, and you can actually do some really amazing things. Any thoughts?
Yes. I think I agree with what you just said, and to extend on being more tactical approach, when we talked about our unified commerce framework, we talked about understanding the data and learning from data, and especially when we are talking about some of the localized, if we want to learn more, we need to understand that data, and investment into data and understanding those markets. I think that is where you will learn and be localized. Right. So if you know that based on the weather conditions, for example, you want to throw out a certain different kind of coupon in a certain geography, you can even do that. And all of that is possible when I would just plug in to say that if you use that unified commerce framework that we just talked about.
Yeah, so I've just screen. You should grab QR code with your phone and start that assessment straight away, or we'll save the link and come back to it. It only takes really about 10 minutes to do, and it could be a great first step for you to start making something happen. I think we're in this place where there's so much opportunity right here, right now in the retail market. We touched on it right at the very beginning. The best companies ultimately are doing really very well. It doesn't need to be a bad place, right? But I think from using an approach that thinks about customers, that thinks about all of the different channels and begins to unify them together for your customers, it's just so important. And I think the framework that we've shared today is just a brilliant start on that. Looking at each one of those 5 steps to begin to think about how you can enable, how you can look at single view, how you can access the data at the right places, how you can design and build and deliver those experiences, and ultimately how you can learn, thinking about all of those different elements and leveling them up, building that maturity over time. Really, you could do some really fantastic things in 2021 and help power up your retail comeback. Any closing thoughts from you, Sunil?
I think yes, and I just want to make sure that there's one question still left, I believe, which talks about the role of retail staff. I think we touched upon that earlier. how the staff is the role of a store associate is changing. And definitely to answer that question, yes, we definitely need to empower and with the right tools and technologies to our associates for them to serve to the new customer expectations. Yeah, so my closing thoughts absolutely do reflect where you stand. Look at this unified commerce framework and see where you stand and make the right investments, be it small, but just start, whoever you are, wherever you are.
Very true, very true. So listen, we are at the top of the hour. If you do have additional questions, do feel free to reach out. I'm Oliver Banks, and I've been here with Sunil Bajaj from Aspire Systems. Use the hashtag #AskAspire on LinkedIn. Reach out. It'd be amazing to hear what your thoughts, your reflections are, or if you do have any additional brainstorm ideas in the middle of the night or anything. It'd be a pleasure to hear from you. Thank you so much, Sunil, for sharing all of your insight today. It's been a real pleasure.
It was great connecting with you. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.